I'm so excited. Yes, I'm so excited you guys are here. Money Matters with LA here. I've got Chris Beckett with Pine Becket and Teri Vestal with Pine Becket. Both are brokers. I want to say longtime friends. And
Definitely.
I had invited Norma on here a few weeks ago, and times were wrong, and it flustered her, so she was like, I'm not doing it anymore. So guess what? We're going to talk about her while she's gone.
Oh, good.
And we got Miss Teri, so
Yeah.
Miss Teri's
Lots
awesome.
of material then.
Next best thing is Norma's right-hand people. So Norma, I met in the early 2000s. I was a mortgage broker, and I had a transaction that was going south. And she had the listing. She had the seller, and I was actually in your office right now. That's where my office was, Prime Source Mortgage. And boy, Norma would come across, and she took my rear end off a couple times. And I was like, I don't know who that lady is, but got the transaction closed because I'm too dumb to quit. And I decided I'm going to make her my friend. Well, over the years, we did become friends, and she just pretty much, she became my agent. She is a mentor to me, and I was talking to her this morning, and she said, I heard a thing about mentorship, and she said, really, we pick our mentees. She said, so although you say I was your mentor, actually, I chose you. I chose you to mentor you, and what an honor for me, because I think she's special, and if you're mean to her, you talk bad about her, then consider me not to be your friend. So I love Norma, and since she couldn't be here, y'all are the best things next to her.
Next best thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the evolution of real estate. You guys have seen a whole lot in a long period of time in the last 20, 25 years. I wanted to talk about the importance of relationship and integrity. We have seen so many people become realtors and become lenders in our market. And we've seen the old-fashioned brokerage where you have to get a key to go unlock a door. We've seen a handwritten contract to DocuSign to now you can unlock doors with phones. And there's just so much going on. And we have to move as fast as it's moving, right? So I just kind of wanted to talk about some of that with you guys, and character and integrity that goes along with that, and the value of relationship too. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
So anyways, that's what I want to share. I want to share some stories about that. Chris, you're always like,
I always have stories.
you have stories.
Good and bad, but I have stories, yeah. I have stories. And I think the stories, and Teri, we can all confirm that, the stories make our job relative. I can tell a story to a buyer or a seller about an experience that I had in the last 29 years, and it makes them feel comfortable that I've already been down that road on a scenario like that, or a listing like this, or something that they go, oh, it's not just me. It's usually not just you. It's probably many times happening over and over again. So sharing an experience with top brokers from us to the public gives a sense of calm and peacefulness, and going, okay, I'm going to be stressed about this no matter what, but at some point, at least I feel like Teri's got it, or Chris has had it, or they've already been down this road. It's going to be okay. They've got it. They know what to do here if there's some kind of disaster or something, because real estate, it's always changing and always evolving. Every deal is different.
Yeah.
Even if we think that the deals this is going to be a no-brainer, this is very simple, something will happen, or an appraisal or an inspection or something we weren't expecting. So
Not one person has ever hired a maid and said, my house is the worst you've ever seen, and hoped that the maid would go, no, I've seen worse. And it's the same thing in these. You guys are there to possibly clean up messes. You're there, whether it's generational, through airship. I'm there to clean up messes on the lending side and dumb things people have done with money or credit or whatever. But the character and integrity in the middle of that is so valuable. It's so needed, what the reputation is. And so that's what I believe in you guys for. I believe in y'all for your character and your integrity. And so my thought was, I want to know maybe a situation where you had to, level heads had to stay, and you had to be a part of something like keeping everyone's head level. Do you have a story you could tell like that?
Well, I've had many instances where, in real estate, it is evolving. I mean, day to day, transaction to transaction. I just had one close over on Whittle Way, that great little house, and we had repairs to do between the house and the city on a water tap and all. And the seller, you're there to communicate, and that's what sellers want, lots of communication, but you are managing attitudes, you are managing temperaments, you are managing, you've got to keep your own attitude and temperament at a really balanced place, because I have found that the agent has so much to do with the attitude of a buyer
Amen.
or a seller, whoever they're representing. You have a snotty agent, you're going to have a very snotty buyer possibly. And that puts kinks and things happening and moving slowly. So luckily, on the other side of this transaction, we have buyers. Now, we've already closed last week. There's an existing repair that really isn't to the satisfaction of the new buyer. And instead of saying, too bad, sad, we're closed, we're done, you know what we're doing? That agent and I are both very experienced. We're going back and we're seeing what we can do to rectify that, because the seller had great intentions of having this repair perfect for the buyers. But you have the city involved, you have a plumber involved, you have other people involved. And so here today, before I came here, I said, look, let's put the plumber and the buyer together. We're going to get back in here and see what we can do to make sure who is supposed to do the repair, if they did it correctly, if there's something else that needs to be done. The seller's agent, the buyer's agent was saying, thank you so much, because I think she really thought I was going to go, too bad, too sad, we're done, I'm over this.
That's so true.
And I went back to the buyer and said, look, let's give them an opportunity to have your plumber meet with your plumber, and let's go through this and let's see, was that a city repair? Because the seller paid quite a bit to the city to make this repair. Or is this a repair that your plumber may have missed? It was on a tap joint or something. And so we're doing that, really making an effort. And I have worked with agents on the other side, and Chris probably can confirm this. You can go back to them, and I've worked with a builder like this too, and they were like, look, we're closed, we're done, we're
done.
over it.
Yep.
Closed and funded.
And,
See ya.
here's the thing, that integrity, whether it gets worked out or not, you've got to make that effort. So you feel good about it, because you have a seller that has great intentions of coming to closing with everything done. You have a buyer that has expectations of that being done. And then you've got two agents here. So you've got a lot, 4 different entities here that need to come together and be satisfied. And that's really the best advertisement for you as a person or professional or your business, is that whatever you did, you gave it your all to make it right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and in the middle of carrying on with integrity, wherever you find your spot of integrity, you've got a legal binding contract. And so often people don't take that very serious. And it's not just about closing and getting a commission check. What people think is that, oh, you're getting this big commission check, and all you did was take me around to 7 or 8 houses and show me, and then show up at the closing
TV?
table.
Just like TV.
On TV, yeah. Like,
Unfortunately,
and then
if it only worked like on TV,
Dang it.
I'd be wearing 6-inch heels and doing business from Beverly Hills, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or
But,
the beach or something.
It's not like that.
But there's legalities in this too. To know the ins and outs of that document. There was when I first came back into lending in 2015, everyone was like, just wait till you get the contract with the red ink on it. Because there was a well-known agent in town that
Graded
put
it.
red ink
Graded the contracts.
on the contract. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. There are so many people that don't take the words on those pages serious, and lenders included. I look at that when I issue a pre-approval. I look at that contract and go, this contract is a result of my pre-approval, and I'm just as responsible for this contract going to the closing table. This is a legal binding thing. So when I think about the integrity of follow-up, returning a stinking phone call, or a text, there's such courtesy, whether to the buyer, the seller, the lender, or anyone in the transaction, but then also knowing what you're doing. I am so grateful for you guys, brokers and agents, that will do those things. It's such a big deal for us because we need you to be that, you know?
Well, I think that realtors don't read. I joke about it all the time, the RDR example, and that agent that was grading the contracts, the reason that she did that is because a lot of people weren't paying attention to the details, the critical dates, the critical terms. And honestly, when I got those contracts back, I may have missed something, and it brought it to the attention, and it kept it cleaner when you got it all worked out instead of, oh, we forgot this one detail, or I didn't explain it to somebody. So long ago, when I was getting those contracts, that was actually not a bad thing. I did not. Some realtors took offense to it, and they
I
were
wish
just
you
like,
guys
"I
would
can't
do it
believe it."
again.
I circle things and the critical parts of the contract so that I can make sure that it's not missed for my buyer or my seller.
But look at who you are today. You guys were a part of that era of real estate in Midland, and you learned from it. And
I
now,
feel like I'm still on a learning curve.
Oh,
real
always.
estate is you never know it all.
Yeah.
Well, Danielle
never know
Kennedy
it
a
all.
long time ago said you're either going to be green and growing in real estate or ripe and rotten. And I think that there's a lot of
so
people,
true.
even younger agents, like that they know everything. You can't know everything in real estate. And if you think you do, you're going to make a mistake and there's
Yeah.
going to be an error. And somewhere down the road, you're going to go, this isn't for me. This is
Yeah.
not for me because I keep making mistakes because you're not learning from the mistakes that you're making. If you're not going to learn from them, there's no point on moving forward.
Yeah.
And then you're not doing a quality job for either the buyer or the seller, and then just you need to go work somewhere else, honestly.
It's all fun and games until the attorney calls.
Yeah. It's
And you're
this is
being
a
summoned to
serious
court,
business.
right?
This is the most expensive investment for either a seller or a buyer. Buyers are so freaked out with interest rates right now, but the pricing is much, much better than it was. But they're only focused on the interest rates. But at the same time, it's a huge deal to them.
It
You've
is.
got to be as professional, and this is what I think you should do, but you're my boss. I always like to tell them, you're my boss. I work for you. You're going to tell me what to do, and I'm going to guide you through the process. And they go, oh, they love to know that like they're the boss. They're the
And
boss
the
of me.
first person they call whenever something goes wrong is you.
Yep.
That's right.
The first person they call whenever
the buck stops here. I
Yeah.
had a situation just a week or so ago, and I said, they said, we want you to go back to the. I said, no, buck stops here. I'm going to take care of this,
Yeah.
and that's just what you have to do.
Yeah, you connect people. Chris, you had a transaction inside my office not too long ago. And it was a great learning curve for one of my people. And we had to sit down and really have a conversation and evaluation of pre-qualifications. These people had an FHA appraisal. They were already tight on their money as it was. And there was a required repair. And to get the house sold, you guys, as the agents, footed the bill and got the repair done. And a week before closing, the buyer didn't qualify.
Oh wow!
And this wasn't one of my loans, but it brought to light some things even on the lending side. 2 years employment. They're not always going to remember their dates start to finish.
Right.
And this guy was lacking like 45 days.
Oh wow!
And so, anyways, I just sat down and I was like, this is a big deal. Money came out of people's pockets for this, and you look bad and I look bad, and the agents, like, this is a big deal. Money has been, and you were so gracious. Brandon was so calm, and those are the moments where, for me, integrity come into play again. Everybody's hot. You can take our heads off, and some people do. When it got to my desk, the fire, we had to have a very candid conversation about the legal side of this and our responsibility even to this buyer, to this seller. I mean, there's nothing that feels worse but
And
what
it's
I
such an emotional
value,
thing.
you knew your stuff. And you just stayed calm. I mean, we're already on fire. There's no point in putting gasoline on the fire some more. And those moments that people just lose their mind, those are relationship ending moments. They are relationship defining moments. I don't like burning bridges. I may choose not to hang out, but I'm never going to burn a bridge with you. I just don't want, that's what I believe in, and that's why integrity is so important. You know what I mean? So do you have any thoughts on that scenario that happened?
You know, I think that the tone when a buyer and a seller enter into an FHA contract, I don't think they're only thinking of they're excited about the contract and getting through it, and then and unfortunately the appraisers take a lot of heat on this too because they're federally mandated. You know, they have a lot of other recourse that they have to follow that we don't care about, honestly. Realtors don't care, buyers don't care, and those appraisers, they're all like, but they're trying to protect the bank. They're trying to protect the asset, actually. And I remember when the market was really, really tight and you'd have FHA buyers because that's all they qualified for, and you had housing that wasn't FHA approved or qualified. And I remember this one very nice couple, and I said, guys, we're going to go out on a limb here because I'm going to have, again, with relationship, I'm going to have to call some agents, find some properties that are not FHA because you have got a family that is really good at construction or windows or paint or whatever. And they're like, you see what you can do. I found him a house, I called the agent. This is what I'm pitching to you. And I explained to him, we want to buy this house, but it's FHA. She's like, there's no way. I'm like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to sign a waiver saying anything that this guy does with his family on this couple of weekends when he could take off of work, we're going to get the repairs done and we're going to be able to close it on time. And they're like, well, my seller doesn't have any money. So if it doesn't close, I'm going to get a piece of paper saying, because they're just going to put their labor, they're going to just spend the money on the paint.
Sweat equity.
It's going to be sweat equity, right? Instead of it after closing, because we can't find a house.
Yeah.
We could not get a house.
Yeah.
Found him a house, got the paperwork done. They knew they were going to Lowe's and Home Depot, and they were buying the supplies, but they had their friends and family over, and they were working on it. There were no hold responsibility if somebody fell. Or I mean, I was very as clear as I could be without being a lawyer. I'm like, the seller's not responsible. And it was vacant. It worked out. And the realtor called me and said, I don't know how you did that. You literally, she said, I will never forget this. You Frankenstein that deal together.
Yeah.
And I love working with you.
Yeah.
And she still calls me once in a while and goes, do you have any more Frankenstein deals? And I'm like, no, I don't. Thank goodness. But those people trusted me to get them a little house. And I mean, back then, 10 years ago, finding a little FHA house for $100,000, $150,000 was an anomaly.
Yeah.
And they were like, we found one it had an extra garage in the back. The guy was like, I know. I was great. We made that work. And
you're a matchmaker.
You put that square peg in a round hole.
It was definitely a Frankenstein. Right. The house was vintage, and it was a little old lady's house, and it was an estate selling it, and they didn't want to mess with it. And it had parts of the ceiling coming in. The guy's brother was a roofer. The guy's other brother was a painter. The other guy's brother was an electrician. Let me tell you, that little thing was a gem before it closed. And the inspector, the FHA guy, went back and goes, how did you do that in 2 weeks? And I'm like, I don't know. We did it. We just made it work. But that was definitely a relationship where you could able to think a little bit outside of the box. Yeah. And I had a great buyer. I had a great other agent. I had a great lender. It was just, everybody was really like, okay, let's see if you can do this, Grace. Sure.
Some of the best transactions are the ones that everyone said it's impossible, and you're the piece that makes it possible. Well, and you have to have that,
like you said, that other counterpart, that other agent. You know, agent relationships are so important. They are so important. And if you've been in real estate very long, you know what agents are going to help you make things work and which ones aren't. You know, you just prepare everybody for the scenario. But you know, if you can have that working relationship, you can make, if a buyer and seller can come to the table and agree, you can make just about anything happen. Yeah. You can, but you have to have everybody on the same
It does help.
Ship.
Help. Yeah. A clear line, a clear path to a closing is very helpful.
And those people will stay with you through the years.
Yes, and tell all their friends about you.
And, yes. And sometimes the other party, those buyers are going like, or sellers are going like, wow, you know, you impress them too because you made their sale happen when they didn't think it could.
Well, and sometimes they become friends with each other, friends with you.
Yeah.
There doesn't always have to be two sides of the street.
You know what I found? That if you have agents that really get along well, that buyer and that seller, they kind of do come together sometimes where they are friends by the time. And then that can be a great situation. You do have some agents that are like, stay away. They're going to keep you at arm's length. They don't want you to have, which you don't look for, you know, that communication with their client. But sometimes you have buyers and sellers, they call each other and you don't even know it. Yeah. You know, they just do things
that
like that.
happened in my transaction.
You know, and sometimes it turns out great.
Yep.
But anyway, but that's what I'm saying. It is such a fluid happening. It is. And you cannot even begin to predict what situations you're going to find yourself in. So having that calm and that, I think it's kind of like being a parent. By the time you have that third child, you're like, okay, just don't get in the street. You know, you're a little easier with people, and I think that translates over into your buyer or seller. And I love working with new agents. I remember Ruth Young was the first person that I ever had a transaction with as an agent, and she knew I didn't know come here from Sikkim. She knew. She was so gracious to me. She was so nice to me. She said, okay, now this is what you're going to want to do next, you know, whatever. And I absolutely never forgot the respect that she gave me when I was such a green agent. Now, you know, here I had a college degree. I had a teaching profession years before. You think, well, you know, you can do this. Well, when you get in real estate, those books don't teach you anything. You learn on the ground. And that other agent made a huge difference for me. And I just loved her so much. So I love working with new agents and other agents on the other side, you know, to just kind of, because the bottom line is, whoever your client is, buyer or seller, you want them to get to the closing table. So you do whatever it takes to help facilitate that. You know, so because they have lots of choices for agents.
Oh my goodness!
You know, there are
like 1,100.
There are twice as many agents. I mean, twice as many clients as there are agents. They have a big choice of who they use.
They do have a big choice.
You know,
and so picking is such a big deal.
This is a busy world with who's doing social media and who's not doing social media and how much you're doing social media. And, you know, we're, you know, older agents, I think, I'm speaking for myself, not Chris, as older agents.
I'm older than you,
but,
I think, Teri.
You know, we're having to figure out how
get out of our comfort zone.
Do this because, you've got that dynamic of young agents that are already techie to begin with. So
everything's at our fingertips. When I say this often, and I think I've said it in my last 2 podcasts. Just because you have a heartbeat doesn't mean you can join my team. It's a culture thing for me. But when someone does come over, I tell them, I'm not going to micromanage your time. You don't have to come to the office, but you're crazy not to. Because you want to be in the lingo. You want to be in the everyday. And so when I talk about that on the lender side, you guys in this evolution, y'all are seeing this saying where we went from brick and mortar to now this online transaction fee broker, realtor. And of course, I don't live in that like y'all do, so I don't have much of an opinion, but I find such value in brick and mortar. I remember my parents when we moved to Midland, one of the 50 million times we moved back here for oil and gas. I remember Deanie Kelly over on Illinois by Sonic. I remember my parents driving over there, Deanie Kelly putting us in her car and driving my parents around to find a house. And I think it was a rental at that time. Those days are gone, and it's kind of sad.
Well, you know what? The boutique brokerage is probably responsible for 80% of sales that go on in the United States.
And describe
most
boutique.
Agents, well, it's going to be a maybe under 30 brokers, would you say, or 30 agents maybe? That would be boutique. You know, maybe 7 to 20 is probably an average. in a brokerage, and those are the agents and brokerages that really are your local agents, because we do have a lot of these online. There are many agents here in Midland. We have probably nearly 1,000.
Almost 1,100.
I think
There
it
are
was
a lot- let me tell you,
1,100 and something.
There are a lot of those agents, and we've seen this happen. If you've been in real estate probably 10 years or more, you've seen this happen where you have a lot of agents. They don't know their broker. They know their name. They're under their name. They don't have a relationship with that broker. That broker lives somewhere else, maybe in Texas. Could be an attorney that has a minimal service broker in another state.
Correct.
So here's the thing, is that they really are not getting that great education where you have your broker sit you down in a chair and go, okay, we need to work on how you're doing this or that, and let's, get better at this and whatever. But you have, here in Midland, there is a huge number of agents that are in these big online brokerages, and we're working with them, and it really can be a hindrance sometimes on just the professionalism, on how they, work a contract, on how they're communicating with their client, what you're needing them to communicate. Are you seeing that, Chris?
Oh, yes, definitely.
It's a huge
People in my office
thing.
tell me they just want to just sit by me just to hear me on the phone.
Yeah.
Just on how I talk to my clients and customers, just because, or, just a random call will come in. I'm like, are we pre-qualified? What is your budget? What about the bedrooms? What's important? Are schools important? Is it newer, older? And they're just like, you ask all these questions. Even buyers will say, we've called around. You're the only agent that has asked us some details. And I'm like, well, I can't just send you a list of
It's
just
so much more than a
random
sign call.
An
things.
open house. I had a broker that said, you're going to come with me to do open houses.
Yeah.
And I got $1 million education doing that. We have a lot of agents that don't have that personal connection with a local broker that is really nurturing them, guiding them, being a mentor to them. And I think that part of real estate is really sad to see.
Yes.
That you don't have that. Like, we've got Norma, we've got Chris, we've got 5 or 6 brokers in our brokerage. We have so much experience and just willingness to help. If any agent calls any of us in our office, more than glad. Come to an open house with me, or I'll go with you to a listing or whatever. There are many, many, many agents that do not have that type of experience. And we're the ones having to navigate their, lack of experience.
On my side, if I get one of the newer agents, that I'm working with, I love working with new agents. They're hungry, they're eager. And they'll say, so-and-so loves this property. Can we do a worksheet? Can we run numbers? Absolutely. Let's get a consultation going with your buyer. And then I'll say, who's the listing agent? A lot of times I want to know who the listing agent is for my newbie agent that I'm working with, because I know on the other side, and I have told multiple new agents, Chris is on the other side of this. He will be so good to you. Norma's on. You are in good hands with your buyer. Stay in communication. This agent has been around they've seen everything. It's not just about calling a sign. And when I have people come in and I'm referred them, I try to protect that referral partner. Don't go call a sign. If you see a new house come up, call your agent, tell them the address, that kind of thing. Because a lot of times, this is just my personal opinion, I think that people see there's an opportunity to make 3 or 6% on the sale of a home, and they don't think about all the other things that go along with it. It's not just about that one-time thing. It's about a relationship. It's about navigation of a legal contract. It's about navigating the conversations and all the parties that are involved. And so it's very frustrating when I have a client call me, I work with them, and then out of nowhere, I get a call from Joe Blow, who was on the sign. Well, we need a pre-approval. Well, hold on. Do you know that someone else has put their time into these people? Do you know that they may have a buyer's rep already? Let's make sure, And so integrity. We go back to leadership. We go back to integrity.
Supporting in Midland, who are the brokers that own these businesses?
Yeah.
Do they live here? That's important.
Yep.
I think that's really important. It's just educating people, because a lot of sellers, even when they list a property, you know, everybody's cousin's neighbor's friend can get a real estate license.
Yep.
But are they really here on the ground? Like Pine Becket has a lot of community projects they do. They're here. They're on the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that is something and that's just an education thing, you know, for people to know that the business they're supporting by listing with this agent or this brokerage is actually putting back into our community and lives here and works here.
They have an office.
And a lender lives here and works here.
Yeah.
They, I think, go to a little more effort to make sure they do a great job for you, because they are a part of this community. And that's how real estate, I think, is changing, is that it's becoming a little more diluted with brokers that are really kind of unseen. They're like Oz, you know. You're in Emerald City somewhere.
That's so funny you say that.
But you don't really get to see them. Pull that curtain back and see who's sitting behind that curtain.
Well, there's been so much here in the last 2 years with AI. So many new things. What are you really getting? I mean, is it a facade? Is it even a real person? Is that who they are? Now anything can be developed.
I mean, we have so many great agents and brokers that live here.
Yeah.
And I say, do business with them. Do business with
agree.
them. You know, they're the ones paying for that rent and building, and to make sure you have the highest level of service to get your transaction to the closing table.
We see the online real estate stuff and the TV shows and all of that. And West Texas has always been its own little protected, we're kind of behind the curve 6 to 12 months, right?
Usually.
So I always tell people, we can go be like that any day. They can never be like us again. You know, protecting that local hometown feeling. There's not a lot of places on earth that have that. And West Texas still has some of that grit in it.
Yeah.
The hometown. And if people hadn't done such dumb things with their money and credit and all the rules, we probably in West Texas would still have handshake banking if we could.
Yeah.
And there probably is some of that. But, you know, I want to protect my community as much as I can. I want to protect my relationships. I'm a relationship girl. And that's why I wanted y'all here today, it's about relationship. And if you don't want a relationship with me, that's not going to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
But when you get one with me, you get one with me. You get one with Teri, you get one with Chris,
Absolutely.
you know. So, and then, we talked a little bit about that, and now, like, all the cutting edge stuff. I love where we're going with some marketing. I come from a marketing background. Teri, I know you're out of your comfort zone. You're doing so good, and I try to share your videos where you're telling about the homes. Me being on video
It's a little raw.
It's hard.
But I like it.
It scares
it not
me,
polished.
and I love it. I love it. I love that you're doing it. I love that Lorraine does it. You've always been like right there, all your ideas and marketing. I mean,
There's too much going on in my head for video. It's just, it comes off like a hot mess in there. Teri's a lot more, she's smooth. Lorraine is smooth. It comes across very endearing. It comes across very genuine. Me, it's like a squirrel just got hit by a car trying to run across the street, and people are like, wait, what? I mean, my stuff's hilarious.
Your Snapchat is so great.
Oh,
I love it.
I'm always in a basement. It's the weirdest. I always have some kind of property with something spooky or eerie on my Snapchat. It's the weirdest thing.
But it's always going to be a good time.
Yeah.
So Teri's more like a Paula Deen of real estate.
I
She
kinda
is.
like that.
I mean,
wow.
she is. Teri is. I just
Very genuine. I love Teri's
her.
stuff.
She's
y'all
so
are-
genuine.
y'all are nice.
She's your Paula Deen of real estate, and then you've got Chris, who's Mr. Hollywood of West Texas.
yeah.
I don't know about that, but
And
thank you.
His
Yeah.
ideas are so cool. If you want a good time, follow the
I would
man's
like to be able
stories.
just to follow him around, because I never can catch him and keep him still long enough.
I can't keep myself still for 5 seconds.
But he's just a dynamo.
Most of my Snapchats are
dynamo.
probably just so that people know where I'm at if they can find the body later on. It's like the last Snapchat, he was out here and it looked like he was about to go into some basement.
I love it.
That's the and I try to geotag, like, I was here last, because nobody actually ever knows. And I have no fear.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I will go, I get this weird sixth sense. There was one house over off of Texas over here that was one of the few houses that I had a funny vibe about. But most of the time, I trust my gut. If I walk into a dark house with no lights and it's pitch black, I'm like, I can pretty much maneuver my way around there without fearing anything jumping out at me. There's been a couple of times where I'm like, I should not have gone there.
You need a taser or something.
Yeah, well, I've got my real estate card. That's good enough. People are like, oh, God, not a realtor. Ugh. It's like a homeless person. Like, no. You want to buy a house? No. So it scares people a little bit being a realtor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
realtors don't
crazy.
exactly have the best
We don't-
profile right now.
Oh,
Well,
I remember when I sold the Texas building. I had really intrigued. I was talking about the basement, and I had these clients from Turkey, and the person that had once, had owned the building said, "Don't go down the basement. There may be vagrants down there. It's going to be dangerous."
vagrants.
I'm like,
is that
okay,
like
well,
homeless people?
Homeless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they broke it.
Oh.
Yeah. So I am
Oh.
in. I do have heels on that day.
Oh,
It's like
geez.
100
Oh, yeah.
degrees outside. We are walking up 12, 13 stories on stairs because there's no electricity. There's glass broken out everywhere. The only way to get to the rooftop is walking up the stairs. So I've got these men from Turkey, me, and we are going up to the top of that building. And I turned around one time and I said, "Y'all, come on, keep going." Then we made it up there, did our view up there, came back, and they said, "What about the basement?" I said, "We're not going in the basement because I think there may be people living there." And so anyway, we get outside, and I had a Suburban at the time, or I had an Escalade at the time, actually. And they said, "Teri, can we please drive your car to the top?" Because it had a drive, a parking garage.
Oh.
I'm like, well, all right. And so I stayed down on the ground floor and let these men from Turkey get in my car and take it all the way up to the top, to the parking garage. And I watched them and I thought, that was not a good decision.
Yeah.
Why did they came back down. They ended up buying the building and all, but I mean, just crazy stuff. So yes, we do crazy things.
We're not playing, when we're realtors and have a realtor head on, we're not playing chess when we're trying to put a deal together. And I think a lot of times I have sellers that will call and they'll say, so-and-so left the front door unlocked, or left the lights on, or left this. And I'm like, okay, guys, I'm not excusing that. I totally understand they need to be more careful about locking your house, but they had a realtor hat on. What does that mean? Like, they're trying to sell something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They may have been out there trying to sell this house 10 times over to 10 different people, and they're trying to make a sale. That's a good realtor. However, they left it unlocked. So then we have to go in there and say, please make sure all the doors are locked and all the security codes are changed and all the lights are off. And still, at that point, they still don't lock the doors. I mean, I have banners all over this one particular house because he's very picky. He's one of my red clients, and sure enough, they keep leaving that door unlocked. So now
You have to go behind.
now there's no lockbox. I have to go and unlock it,
There you
and I
go.
have to lock the house back up because
Wow.
that's what he wants, and that's that level
You work
of
for that
trust
client,
for
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
He's a repeat client, and
That's
I know
amazing,
when I work with this individual, I know that he is going to expect not the minimum, not the medium, but the maximum level of service.
Yeah.
And so we only had that lock happen twice. He said, no problem, take the lockbox off.
Yeah.
You will have to be here now for every showing. And I'm like, great, no problem. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, and as a seller recently, we're all guilty. So I'm the seller that y'all would hate. We all think that the house is going to hit the market and I'm going to get multiple offers because look how cute it is.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want it? It's so perfect. I've done this. I've done that. And it is going to go for full price and it is going to be this. And so, but there's a lot of emotion in that sale too, and Norma, bless her heart, and Becca helped a lot, and Savannah took all my pictures. But you just never know what's behind that door when you guys are professionally walking in, and I living it just recently. I was there for 14 years, raised my kids, buried my husband there, and then this guy who knows it all wants to tell me everything about my house and how much he's going to pay for it. So that was a little bit of a challenge for me, but Norma called me one day and she's like, "You going to lose this buyer over $2,000?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And then I slept on it and I was like, there's so many emotions, you know? I'm like, I can make $2,000 in my sleep. I mean, anyone can if they do the right thing.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
it's an emotional
it
emotional
is.
moment where you go that $2,000 and then you start going, well, wait, what's my monthly payment? What are my taxes? What are my interest? What are my utilities? If I keep this another 4 or 5 months, how many more reductions
Yeah.
is the realtor going to call me on? I try to.
Yeah.
All these facets come in into play on an offer. Like, this is a good offer. Here are good terms. We still have to get past the inspection period, which on our contracts, based on our contracts, it says as is, where is. All of my sellers, they read that. And I explain to them, that's not what that means.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean as is. It means that if there is something wrong with this house, you're disclosing it on the dishwasher, it doesn't work, whatever. And they get the inspection report. Chris, you told me it was as is, where is. No. I said they're buying it as is, pending the inspections.
Yeah.
Other than
And
something
what
you didn't
they've
disclose.
disclosed to you.
Other than you didn't disclose to them. It's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not doing any repairs because it's as is. It says it on the contract. I'm like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I can't give you legal advice. But you're doing this wrong. This is the way this works. And they're going to give us an amendment, and we're going to work through that amendment, and you're not going to blow it, as Norma would say, for $2,000. You're not going to do it. We're going to make this work for $2,000. Absolutely.
But you know, that's what people need. We are living in this crossover generation where you get to hear any and everything you want. You'll find someone to tell you what you want to hear. We don't need that. We need to bring back spankings. We need to bring back
It's just
brutal
like
honesty.
when you go to a listing appointment and you know they're having other people come too. Okay, you know when you go to a listing appointment and you don't really know them very well, it's very likely that you're competing with other brokers or other agents. So the thing is, always tell them, okay, look, you know, you may want to get some other brokers or agents' opinion on this, but I'm going to tell you the truth because that's what sellers want. They really want the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and someone may tell you that your house will sell for this amount. I'm going to tell you what the numbers say, my opinion. That doesn't mean you have to price it at that price.
Exactly.
But I'm going to give you the facts because that's what you would expect
What I'm
out
hiring
of me,
you
right?
to do.
And so most of the time you get those listings. Sometimes you don't. And what you'll watch is that, you know, when they're on their second broker or third broker, they're going to get down to the price you told them it was going to be anyway. So do you want to waste your time or do you want to just
Back
cut
to
the
that
chase?
on the relation, piggybacking on that, there was an incident a couple of times where me or Teri probably have been the second or third agent. And I remember this one listing. I was competing initially. I didn't get it. The other agent got it. It was on the market. You see it go on MLS, and you're like, oh, darn, I didn't get that. Well, you know, I hope it works. It's like, anyway, they call me back, and they say, hey, do you remember us? We're like, realtors, they always remember. Yes, of course I remember you. Yes, you were the one that didn't list me. Yes, of course I remember you. Yes. So they bring you back in, you start your whole presentation again, and then they get very intimate with you, and they say, look, here's the deal. The other agent told us a higher price or whatever, and we felt like our house was worth that, and your pricing was different than their pricing. And I said, yes, but I think I remember saying you're the boss. You can list it whatever you want, as long as we're all on this, because this is a partnership.
Yeah.
If we're on the same page and you know that this is what I think your house is worth, and you're the boss, I'm going to do what you tell me to do. Then after that, if it doesn't work where you want it to be, let me take the lead.
Yeah.
Anyway, besides all that, what happened was on this transaction is on this listing that expired, and then I got it after that. The guy said the agent came in, and I won't get into details, but the agent came in very elaborate. Let's leave it at that. Teri will understand what I mean. Very elaborate. She left, got the listing, and I immediately was uncomfortable. Immediately. And I said, and I asked the wife, I said, what about you? And she said, well, I was worried that he was uncomfortable because, you know, he's my rock and I'm going to do whatever he tells me to do. And we're going to work together as a partnership because he's my husband, but I wanted him to feel better about it, but he didn't. It was really weird. It was a weird feeling. He's never been that way. And I said, well, how did she leave the door? I mean, how did she get out of the door with a signed listing? Well, she overpromised everything. Nothing she said she could deliver on. Not the price, not the terms, not the flyers, not the open, nothing. And it was like, it was 3 months of just, I felt like we wasted our time for 3 months. And I said, well, I'm sorry that happened to you. And I'm really glad that you're sharing that with me, because realtors, we don't know, a lot of times we don't know why we didn't get the listing. We usually assume it's pricing, but you know, if somebody was overpromising something to you, then they're not doing a very good job, and they probably won't be here for very long anyway, because that gets out in the community. Goes, oh, yes. When we went to church, we immediately started talking about it, and somebody said, oh, they had the same experience. And so it got around, and they felt kind of silly. Like, why didn't we ask people before, you know, had they had any experience? And this was like before Yelp and stuff. This was like way before all the social stuff. This is when people would go to church and they would say,
word of mouth.
hey, who did you sell your house with? You know, and
word of mouth.
It was word of mouth, and it's a small town, and it would get around, and then, you know, I would be competing, and sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't, and you hope for the best for the customer, the client. Top agents like Teri and myself, honestly, we're not looking at the commission. We're not looking at the fees. We're not looking at all this stuff that a lot of the newer agents are so focused on commission. Norma told me a long time ago, you stop working or focusing on the commission, the business will flow. It will you won't be able to stop the business coming to you, because people will know you're not there to make, you have to make a living. Absolutely. We all have bills to pay, whatever. But at that point, they're going to understand you're there for them.
Yes.
You want them to do the best job, make the best decisions, have the best closings, you know, just as easy as it can possibly be. And there's going to be hiccups. It's a hard transaction. But if you let go of the money and not focus on it, it will just flip over and just, here you go, Chris. Here's 5 deals. You lose 3, I'm going to give you 6 or 7 deals. It's the weirdest thing. Just let it go
and so
just be
much
that
of the
agent.
emotion comes off the table when you do that.
Yeah,
if you notice, like that situation with Norma, okay, you want to lose this buyer over $2,000?
Yeah.
0 emotion.
Yeah.
And
she was so respectful.
I needed it.
Pointing out that to you the way she did, though.
Yeah.
Because I always tell people, I'm not going to have to tell you if your house is priced too high.
Yeah.
You're going to know that yourself.
The market's going to tell you.
You'll
exactly.
You'll
the market's going to tell
and
you.
you slept on it. You knew.
And, you know, 2 years ago, we listed the house, and we listed it a little higher than where we went in this time, and didn't move. The market was different. We rented it, let the market adjust. Well, we go in this time, and we listed right where we had reduced last time. That house had contracts and offers on it within 7 days.
Yeah.
So we knew how to list it this time. And I had done some things to it. And then we went through this 30-day window, and the market changed and shifted because a buyer was under contract. But the emotional side of this business that can be managed and isn't.
Yeah.
That's the big, you know, I see all the emotions all the time. I'm the lender. I see the money. I'm telling them what they did what they didn't do. You know, they're so nervous about not being approved. But working in partnerships, and it is a true partnership. We are on a team to get these people to the closing table. Working in relationships that can manage that level of emotion, it's so refreshing. It makes my life so good. It makes me enjoy my career. Even that, I love getting new homeowners. I love first-time home buyers.
And it can be chaotic. Even an easy transaction can be chaotic.
Yeah.
So you are, you know, I think it's just the greatest satisfaction to leave a closing and a buyer or seller to go, you know, that was really not as crazy as I thought it was going to be.
It's the greatest compliment.
And it just makes you feel like, yeah, okay, but, you know, that's what you want.
Yeah,
you know,
that is
that's
exactly
the
what you
greatest
want.
compliment, to feel like, even if they don't tell you.
Yeah.
For you to get in your car and go, okay, I think I made that as easy as it could possibly be for them.
We had one just this last week that it's 14 days from the day they go under contract to closing this morning. And one of my girls goes, yesterday, I didn't order a survey. I checked it off, but I didn't order a survey.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm all but breathing in a paper sack. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my, because the buyer, the agent who, this is my first transaction with that agent, and I've been wanting to get that business and that relationship, and I'm going, oh my God. You know, I don't tell the buyer. I don't tell the agent. Title's like, hey, where's the survey? It's on its way. We're just waiting on it to be delivered, you know. But you know what? We haven't abused people. We have built relationships, and we call Bradshaw. They're amazing. I love Bradshaw. And
absolutely.
I really need a favor. We had a blooper, and here I am sweating bullets, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no one in the transaction knew that there was
Yeah.
sweating going on over here.
Yeah.
We just go to work, we just do what we're supposed to do.
It is such a blessing to be able to get up and, not every day's roses,
No.
for sure. But it is such a blessing to be able to get up and feel like you've done something that made a difference in other people's lives. And it may just be like what you did, just getting that survey. They have no idea what that entailed,
don't
probably,
know.
and the relationship you had to have with that surveyor to get that done.
Yep.
But this business can be so fun. And piggybacking on what Chris said about commission, we all love making a living. Midland is a great place to be in real estate.
It is.
To make a living. It is the sky's the limit here. But I will say that, if you can kind of step back from that and just look at just the joy you find of, just being able to interact with people, and real estate is crazy. You never know who's going to come your way. And sometimes I think,
Or come
how
back
did
to
these
you.
people find me?
Yeah.
How did they find me?
Yeah.
But it just, I think that's what I love about it is that the unpredictability of it. I like that.
Yeah.
And we do have the people here in Midland, the demographics here is so exciting. It's just this microcosm of very interesting people, very wealthy people, people that are entrepreneurish, people that they may not be wealthy, but they've got big ideas about what they want to do. And a home transaction is big. It doesn't matter if you're buying a $100,000 house.
That's absolutely right.
So it's so much fun to help all those, sell
And
a $5
every
million,
scenario
great.
is different.
Sell 300,000, great. Sell 100,000. How much fun is it to help a single mom get in a home that has a garage she feels safe driving into, or what? There's just all these neat things about Midland is an island, and
Good
we
point.
are our own nation here.
I love it
and
here.
I absolutely love being in real estate
I
here.
do too. And I
And
tell
it takes me
people-
other places.
Yeah.
It takes
Right.
me to Horseshoe Bay. It
Yeah.
takes me to Lake Brownwood. It takes me. I mean, your clients take you with them where they go, and I love that because
I'm
we
with
are
you.
such a neat demographic of people.
I tell people a lot when they're moving here, because I've been here since I was 3, between Midland and Odessa. And I tell people, you don't move here for the scenery. You're not looking
No.
for water. Well, you
No.
might be, but you're not getting it.
Yeah.
No trees. But you fall in love with the people and you make a lot of money doing it.
This is a great place
Go
to make a
somewhere
living.
else. Go somewhere on vacation. Go play somewhere
Yeah.
else. But if you want great opportunity, if you want hometown living, I can't tell you how many people I've done loans for, Bubbas that graduated 6th grade and they make $200,000 and they are
Absolutely.
providing for their family
Yeah.
and they never thought they could own a home. It is wonderful. It is so great to teach them those things, you know?
Midland's an awesome place.
I love
is.
it. I love it too.
Yeah.
So before we started talking, we were talking about video and having to learn new things. And last week I was in Vegas with all the really cool mortgage lenders that I'm just like, salivating at the things they do. It's so cool to sit in a room with top producers and hear what they're doing, and you're doing the same thing, right? So we're doing this podcast, this video, which is way out of my comfort zone. Teri, you're
Mine too,
learning.
especially.
Chris is doing
I know
new
my
things.
son's like, you're doing what? I'm like, don't ask, Alex. Don't ask.
We're
Please.
doing a podcast.
We're doing a
We're
podcast.
so
about
cool.
what? I'm like, oh, Alex, probably about real estate. What do you think? Well, that's the
Yeah.
only thing I know what to do. I can't do anything else but
Yeah.
real estate. It's like, okay, Dad, whatever.
Yeah.
So this year, what would you say, as we're in a new year, what would you say is your new thing? The new thing that is going to push you out of your, like we were talking about this. I want to talk about this. This is a business card.
It's a 4x4.
And in addition to it, don't complain if you don't have feedback. Look for this, because on the back of this cool card, Chris is not soliciting your sellers. He's leaving you feedback. It says, thank you for allowing us to show your property. Great property, possibly interested in a second showing. Property was great, but not the right fit. Buyer is considering the layout. Buyer needs more updates. We just started looking. So cool.
Direct feedback.
Look
right there.
for this and don't complain if you don't have feedback.
That's right.
for your
And
seller.
time saver for the agent too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they don't need to be like if anything's going to happen, that the seller's going to call their agent and say, "Hey, this guy showed this property and he's got somebody interested," or not. Don't even have to worry
Right.
about like, okay, Chris,
Right.
you showed this, but you didn't leave feedback. Whatever. It's like I did actually. I left feedback in the house, so it's there if they need it, whatever. But I'll give you the same feedback. We just started looking, or we just got them pre-qualified, so we're checking out all their options under a VA loan, whatever, that sort of thing. So
Well, and sometimes you don't have time after showing 8 homes to go
Right.
back into showing time or
Yeah.
what's the other one? I can't
Broker
think.
Bay.
Broker
Yeah.
Bay, and write down something on
Right.
every single one. But
Yeah.
this
Well,
Yeah.
is so cool.
I think on the feedback too, because I'm a heavy lister and Terry's a heavy lister. When you have a seller that says nobody's leaving feedback, let me translate that to the sellers. That means when that buyer's agent was showing that house and had the buyer's agent hat on, they are focused on taking care of the buyer.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that buyer that saw those 5 houses, do you want to look at any more of those 5 houses? Which one of those 5 houses stood out to you?
Yeah.
Because tomorrow when we go look at another 5 houses, what's going to happen is house number 3 was your number 1 pick, and then house number 2 was your number. You should be able to, in your mind, mentally narrow down what you're actually thinking about buying.
Yeah.
We are thinking as buyer's agents at that point. I'm not thinking about feedback for Terry's listing.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Especially if they didn't like it.
Especially if they
Yeah.
didn't like it. If Terry's buyer says, Terry, we didn't like these 3 houses, Terry's not going to, Terry's very respectful. She's going to give me feedback because that's Terry. I am like a squirrel. I'm like, I don't even remember. Wait, which one was, that's the one with the weird blue door or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I try to remember what house, some of these houses have gotten so similar. There's a lot of new developments in Midland in Odessa that there's literally 4 elevations and 4 floor plans, and there's nothing deviating them whatsoever. And I had
Yeah.
to make notes. It
Yeah.
had the barking dog, or
Yeah.
it had
to remember which one it
the
was.
daughter's room was pink or
Yeah.
something. And I'm like, oh yeah. And then I'll make a note on it, and then I'll make a note on theirs because I'm old school. So I'll have papers with
Yeah.
me for
Yeah.
the showings. You guys make notes on this, and we're going to go look at, 50 houses or whatever. But they'll call me and say, I need feedback. I'm like, I don't even remember which one that was.
Yeah.
I've shown them 15 houses, and all of them sort of are similar. And they go, oh, it's the one with the blue kitchen doors. I'm like, I do remember that house. They didn't like that because it was a west-facing backyard. And if anybody knows about west-facing backyards
Yeah.
in West Texas, you're going to be baking out
Yeah.
there. You better have a
Right.
pool back there
Yeah,
for a
put a pool
west-facing
in.
backyard. So things like that. But sellers, if you don't get feedback, they're not interested in your house. It's just that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
And so don't chew out the listing agent, because the listing agent is your communication to the general real estate
Yeah.
public. Okay.
Right.
We're here to schmooze it and get people in there and get showings and PR it and market it and do the open houses. The feedback, if that realtor is interested in seeing that house, they're calling Teri. Hey, Teri, what's the skinny on this house? We're going to go back and look at it at 3 o'clock. Do you have any other offers? That's a pro.
Yeah.
A pro is going to call Teri and say, we love that house. What's the deal? Hey, there was something weird about that.
You can't keep them away.
Yeah,
really.
then they're
If
going to
they
be
love it,
calling
you
and
can't
calling
keep
and
'em
calling.
away.
And then Terry's going to go, hey, Joe, guess what? I got a call from that agent that showed it last week that I couldn't get feedback from. They're hot and heavy on the house.
Yeah.
Really? Because Terry's done her job. But so listing agents sellers get a little frustrated because the listing agent isn't getting the feedback. It's not that big a deal.
Well,
they're not that interested in the house.
and let
Otherwise,
me-
we'd be calling.
Let me say this as a recent seller.
The recent
Again,
seller.
it was annoying to get feedback that I knew came from the agent. There
Really?
are times that I get feedback
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
buyer.
Yeah.
The agent's not buying my house.
Yeah.
The buyer is buying my house. And I can't tell you how many agents said it's overpriced.
Yeah.
My agent I hired for a reason. It's not overpriced. I didn't tell her how much to list it at. I trust her.
Yeah.
So there were things that came back.
Well, that's
as
easy.
feedback.
That's just easy. It's like all chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, it's all. But if you have a savvy seller and they know what they're doing, I didn't really care about the feedback. I cared to know that it was showing. I wanted to know that
Right,
people were
right.
looking at it, but I didn't really care about the feedback. Who
Yeah.
do you trust?
Just
your
where's the
listing
offer?
agent.
Where's an offer?
Bring on, come on, bring the offer.
That's what they say.
You know?
It's TAMU, which is our Texas A&M real estate committee. They do a magazine article that it's the best in the country, in my opinion.
It is.
And they say for every 7 to 10 showings, if you don't have, for every 7 to 10 physical showings, because everything is online. I get it. And that's very important. I also get it. But older agents like us, I need to be able to say that property's had 5 showings. Great. I should have, for every 7 to 10 physical showings, it's either, and I don't get an offer, it's price, condition, or location.
Okay.
Okay. You cannot, most of the time, change your location. Whether it's a good location or a bad location, it is the location.
Right,
Okay.
period.
So you can do condition. A lot of times we have sellers, Teri and I both know this, that they've done all this work. They painted the kitchen banana yellow and the kitchen and the bathrooms are pink. And like, look at all the money I spent on this. You spent your money the wrong way. That's not what the buyer of this house is going to be looking for. So then the ultimate control for your seller is price.
Yeah.
That is they really want control. They want feedback, they want control, they want communication with Teri or Chris, and that's what you get. And then at some point you go, guys, 7, 10 showings. We've had 15 showings. Price, condition, location.
Yeah.
We're not changing the location. We're not putting any more paint and carpet. We can't do any more in this house. Let's adjust the price. At some point, guess what? Then they get an offer, and then some of my sellers will go, if you call me one more time for a price adjustment, Chris, I swear to God. And I'm like, okay, would you rather me call you for a lower offer that I'm getting or another price adjustment? Well, I'd rather have the offer. I said, then trust me on the pricing. Just trust me on the pricing. Because again, they're the boss. If they don't want this price and they want that price, I'm okay with that. As long as you realize in this number over here, this is where we're probably going to need to be at. Okay. It's a partnership.
So now you're
hiring
playing
an
psychologist.
Agent. Yeah, you're hiring Teri, you're hiring Chris as your advocate to tell you and guide you through the process with the least amount of resistance and pain and suffering. We want this to be a good experience for both of us.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not sadistic. Teri and I, we really would like you to have a really good, pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, sometimes it doesn't happen, but if we're trying our hardest, then we've accomplished our goal. We really are. We've done our best. We're trying our hardest. We're being honest, fair to all parties. We're doing everything we possibly can.
I always tell sellers when I list, okay, here's your feedback. Know that agents, some of them are not going to sign in. They're not even going to answer my phone calls when I call them personally. And usually what I do, we have the technology to know who's coming in those houses before they get there. We know. So I usually call them beforehand and go, hey, what information do you think you might need before you go in the house?
Oh,
Because I
great
send you the
idea.
seller's disclosure early.
Teri's so good. Not to interrupt. Teri's so good. I saw her the other day. She was setting up her listing before the showing.
Wow.
That's how good Teri is. She's like, I'm seeing that showing going to be across the street. She was showing. She's like, this is going to get shown at such and such time. I'm going to just pop in over there and just
Turn the
make
fireplaces
it as
on.
comfortable as possible for that showing before they get there. Because the other thing that we do is we try to, as realtors, we go in there and scramble for lights, and there might be a dark room or something. And I saw her set that up. I'm like, I saw Miss Teri over there setting that listing up. Teri's smart. She's not going to get one past Teri. She's got it handled.
Here's the thing. And, if an agent can't get there to show a house, I'll show them for you.
I'll open the house
I'll
up.
do it for you. You know.
Now, that is rare in our environment anymore.
Yeah, it is rare.
That level of service from the listing agent, that is the four seasons of real estate when Teri does
so
that.
good.
And you don't have to do that all the time. I'm just saying that if it's an occasion where the agent's somewhere else, don't worry about it. I'll show them for you.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is that I tell sellers before we list, I say, okay, here's your feedback. You're not going to need me to tell you your house is priced too high. If you don't have showings, like Chris is saying, if you don't have many showings, probably your price too high. We do have location and condition to consider there too. If you have quite a few showings and you don't have an offer, you're probably priced too high, unless it's location and condition issues. And so I'm not gonna. You're such a smart seller. I know we're gonna get this sold, but I'm not gonna have to tell you that. You're gonna know that.
Yeah.
And that's a good point. Sellers are extremely sophisticated now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tools. When we go out there and we do a listing presentation for we've got numbers and pricing sheets and Instagram posts. We've got our whole top dog presentation in there for the seller. And every time the seller goes, well, what do you think it's worth?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, well, this is what I think it's worth, but it's your house. What do you think? Well, I did a lot of research on it. The engineers, the lawyers, they have all the data. They're like, well, I did all this information, and then I did this and the square footage and then my lot size, and I think it's worth this. I'm like, okay, so that's where you want to be at, and that's my numbers are different than yours, but they have a lot of free information now.
Yeah, and I usually ask the seller too. I get to this first. What do you think? You have neighbors, you have relatives. They've all told you what you think your house is worth. What is your number? What would you be so happy walking away with? Or what do you think we ought to price at? And I love hearing that number because automatically I already know what I'm going to say. And it's so nice to know that because then I can say, okay, well, we're a little bit apart on what we're thinking, what it is. Or I might say, you know, you've undervalued your home. I think I can sell it for more.
Oh,
you
that's
know?
awesome.
And so I kind of like to know if I can pick that out of their brain. Now, sometimes they'll go, well, we want to hear first what you think it's worth.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's what I think it's worth. Where are we at? So it's kind of coming together and getting those minds together.
It's a partnership.
You know, it's not a fine science.
No.
There are so many facets that come along with how do we price. I'm usually, a lot of times I'll go, okay, let's look at this. Let's table this right now. We're not putting it on the market today. Let's table it. I'm going to make a few calls to some appraisers and see if what private listings might have sold around that we can kind of pull in. And let's think about it a little bit. And that's kind of a good thing to do because you don't really have to price a house the moment you have a listing. You know, you can kind of, you know, you do have to do that very soon, 24 hours or so after you.
There's so many more
signed,
pieces to it. You've got ego. With the sellers.
Yeah, definitely.
You've got psychology.
Yeah.
I don't want to pay $80,000. Will you pay $79,500? Yes, I'll pay $79,500. Psychology.
Yeah.
You know, Norma, when she listed my house, she's like, you've done such beautiful updates to it and blah, blah, blah. But remember that hot tub that's sunken into the ground back there in the sunroom that doesn't work? We have to deal with the elephant in the room. There's so much more than just ego, just psychology. Just facts and comps for the area. There are parts that play into it that if you don't know, you can't be a yes man in this world, in this real estate world. You just can't.
I think people want, honestly though, sellers, y'all, they are so smart. They know if you're pulling the wool over them. I think
Most
if
do.
you can just look at them and go, okay, this is the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
My goal is to make as much money for you as I can.
Yeah.
I want to have the best sale possible. In reality, this is where we're at, you know, on numbers. This is what we've got to work with because you can't change those numbers, but you can adjust. You can work, you know, and like Chris said, we work for you, you know. So, you know, you just have to, hopefully they'll lean on you a little bit. And I think most people, they call you for a reason.
Yeah.
They call you because they know you sell a lot of homes or they like your marketing or they've seen you on Facebook. I mean, who would not want to list with Chris? You know, Chris, when I sell my house, I may call you to sell my house. You know, I mean, he's fantastic.
I had a realtor. I had a realtor years ago call me, and I'm like, "But you're a realtor." I'm like, yeah, but I can't sell like you can. That's why and that's why he was getting out of it. And I'm just like, okay. I really took that as a compliment. When another realtor had called me to list their house, I was like, that is a big deal.
And I know, and it does. You know, when you have a seller call you and they'll go, well, we heard you do this, or you tried to help us on a transaction that didn't work, but we want you to take. And what a great compliment that is.
But I've been with you on a
count on
family
you.
transaction at the lake house, and you were amazing. I mean, Chris is cutting edge and so fun. And who, of course. And then you, Paula Dina Real Estate, Miss Teri. You take care of, you're so caring.
Try to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, right?
You're so caring in it, so level-headed, and I love your care and
here's something I
concern.
love about Chris and I. We both live in our cars. We're very mobile. And I think, you know, for a listing agent that takes care of clients that have out-of-town properties, you know, you're very active here, but it's so much fun to have somebody go, hey, I've got property at Horseshoe Bay, property at Lake Brownwood. I want you to come sell it. What a great compliment that is. But I love getting in my car and going, you know, and being at showings in Horseshoe Bay or being at showings. That is the fun part of what I do. It seems like a lot of work and it's expensive.
Yeah.
But it's It's so rewarding if you like doing that.
Yeah.
I like the trust that's involved with Teri has clients that have multiple properties, and I like that those people trust Teri.
Yes.
I think that is a huge compliment. I have a similar guy that buys property all over, and he bought complexes in New Braunfels, and he sent me all this paperwork, and I looked over. He said, "I need you to look over this. I need to see if it's anything standing out of it," because it was from a builder. I was in the deal, so I was able to call the builder. I'm like, "Can you send me this portfolio that you have?" And so I went over and I read it, and so I called the guy back with some questions that I had for it, and the guy said, "I'm surprised you read that." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, we've sold many of these floors to lots of realtor associates, whatever, and no one's ever called us. They just get the check." And I'm like, "Well, let me tell you something. This guy that has asked me to look at it, if I didn't look at him and told him it was fine, and then something surprised him that I didn't tell him about, because it was 500 pages, and there was two things that stuck out to me. Like, I didn't know what that was exactly. It was a builder thing for New Braunfels. It was a specific thing and so I looked it up, called an attorney, got the information, got back with the buyer, and then I had to get back with the builder to get more clarification. And he said, "No one's ever called us. We've been doing this deal for 2 years. No one's ever called." It was a closeout. It was the closeout of the final phase, what they call in the big cities. And no one's ever called us. They just get the check. We never hear from the realtors. You're the only one in 2 years that's called us. And I said,
Wow.
"But this guy trusts me to look over, and if anything, everything was fine except for these two little things." And so I called the guy back. I explained to him what it was. I told him I did my due diligence. I called the builder. I called an attorney. "You're fine. Sign it. You're good." And he goes, "Okay." But it was so surprising that I got that comment from the building company. It's like, no one's ever asked us anything.
It's surprising, but it's sad. There's integrity in that.
Okay, 90% of the people that have an agent want to use that agent again, but did you know, or if they meet an agent, say they meet an agent at open house or somewhere, they want to use that agent, but did you know only 6% of those agents follow up? So you got follow up here. Chris is follow up guy.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. A lot of it's showing up, following up, getting your timing and circumstances and situation working at the same time with a buyer or a seller, and just his work ethic is amazing.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't take a whole lot to be above average. Does it, Chris?
It doesn't, but to be exceptional is time consuming. It does wear on people, and maybe Teri, but me personally, I don't sleep a lot.
Yeah.
I'm always, I have a hard time with the turn on, turn off, but I'm on a lot.
Yeah.
And so I don't sleep much, and so going to bed early is a joke.
That's something we have in common.
Okay, so it's a higher level of, has that been done? I'm not sure. And I drive the people at the office crazy because I'm like, "Hey, da-da-da-da-da," and they're like, "You've already asked us that." I'm like, "Okay, guys, when I'm sending these messages out, it's not necessarily like, did you do it, did you not do it? It's more of a reminder for myself.
Yeah.
Did I get these things done? I listed a property yesterday in Sweetwater, and in the car, not texting, I was texting, a list to myself, to the group, because I figured if somebody in the group could pick up 4 or 5 of those items for me, that would be one less thing for me to do. But my brain was going, I literally was driving 80 miles an hour, and my brain was going 80 miles an hour of the things that needed to happen. Because when you're out of the office, like Teri and I sometimes will be in Horseshoe Bay or New Braunfels or whatever, I get a little clarity on the road.
Oh, windshield time is amazing.
I get a little clarity, like, you know
Yeah.
what? I was supposed to call Joe about that hotel or something, or that apartment complex or something. And I'm like, okay, hey, Joe, I'm in the car. I'm driving to Sweetwater. I just want to let you know I haven't forgotten about you, but I was waiting on the agent for you asked some questions, and I'm waiting on the agent. Because I'll ask somebody, and I won't get a response, and then it goes click, 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 goes back here until Joe goes, "Hey, did you ever hear back?" I'm like, "Oh.
Out of sight, out of mind.
I did not, but I will reach back out to so-and-so right now."
Multitasking, for sure.
It's boom, 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 boom.
I
scroll.
love windshield time too. I get.
And you have
a
sellers
lot
that
of
depend
thoughts.
on you to do. I had a client that had a home out at Los Patios, really great little couple. They didn't have kids at the time, and he had cancer. And he had to leave. He had a really good, he was an engineer here, had a really great job. Anyway, they left for like 6 months, and I had their house listed at that time. And it was during COVID, actually. And, you know, they depend on you. Not that they expect that from you, but it's such a great feeling to feel like you're really helping somebody out. He calls me one day and he goes, okay, so in this closet in my house, I've got this drone. I need you to take it back to my boss at work because he couldn't come back to Midland because of his treatments. So, you know, we go into, so we do all kinds of things, you know, that just go over and above. And that's the exceptional part, I think, that you strive for that.
You become
And
family
sometimes
members to
sellers
these people
give you
sometimes.
an opportunity to be exceptional.
Yeah.
We don't create those things, those
Yeah.
times ourselves, but I think you have opportunities to be exceptional. So.
I tell my kids, still to this day, and they're adults, go the extra mile. The lane's never crowded.
Yeah.
And it's so foreign and lost in our world. It's just boom, 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 you know. Yeah. And I'll hire 15 assistants if I have to make sure the extra mile is covered.
Yeah.
I don't care what it takes. People are hiring me to help them with their money in the biggest transaction of their life or to start their portfolio of real estate. I'm practicing what I preach myself. I'm in business with people who are practicing what they preach. You know, integrity, character, honesty, going the distance with them. And I just love being in business with you guys. I love that.
Oh, we love you too.
I can pick up the phone and I can tell somebody. I had someone call me last year and they're like, I need and some people will be really mad about what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. They said, we need a luxury real estate agent in Midland. Janine's your best friend. Well, yeah, Janine's my best friend, but I need a luxury real estate agent. I was like, okay, cool. Well, of course there's Janine, but there's Chris Beckett and there's Teri. And Norma said, I'm luxury. And I said, I know, but I think you were out of town with David at the time with the doctor. I said, but if I, you know, I get asked very rarely for referrals. And when I give one, I want to know those people work the way I do.
Yeah.
You know? And so those were my
Back to a
Teri,
relationship.
Chris.
Yeah.
Back
It's
to
a
a relationship.
relationship.
And speaking on luxury, you know, what is a luxury home in Midland? Our average price of a home right now, I think we've got like 620 homes on the market roughly today. And, you know, I think the median's like in the 300s, but the average price is over 500. That's
520 or something.
yeah, it's amazing.
It's a lot.
Isn't that crazy?
And like
Yeah.
63 days is kind of an average. It's different in different subdivisions, but I mean they're their own animals. But the thing is that you know that a luxury home in your market is generally double what the average price is.
Okay.
If you want to go with the median, that'd be in the 750 to 800 range and above. If you want to go with the average price of a home, that would be $1 million and above. So we have a lot of homes in that category here in Midland. A lot.
In the 700 range.
Oh, yeah, we
Yeah.
have a lot. We have a lot over $1 million.
Yeah.
If you're in the $1 million range trying to sell a home, you better be really proactive in your marketing. You better have an agent that knows what they're doing, that can really bring it, because there is some stiff competition in that over $1 million range.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I walk into the $1 million homes, broker opens or open houses or with clients. Sometimes I have clients that say, will you go look at this with me? Sure, I'll go. And in my head, I'm like, I'm just a single woman. I'm not $1 million home buyer myself. But when I'm walking into it, I'm going, well, for $1 million, it better have this, it better have that, it better. In the same sense, you have people who are like, well, for $200,000, it better have this, it better have that. My first home, $79,900. That's what I paid for it. It's 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 dining room over on Humble, and it was everything I had. That house now sells for $300,000.
That crazy?
yeah,
It is just
our first home here was 80. It was on
insane.
Missouri Street, and it was a little over $80,000, like 82 or 83. But we lived in it 6 years. We spent cash to remodel it. You know, it wasn't a total remodel, but over that 6 years and with what we put into it, I think we sold it at like $235.
Isn't it amazing?
Yeah,
See,
something
and
like
we
that.
did the same thing.
And we
put
just thought,
stuff into it.
wow. Well, now it's hard to find a $235 house on
Yep.
Missouri Street.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Go figure.
yeah.
It is just we sold ours for
I long for those
160.
days.
But it's still that those days aren't gone. Although we're buying $300,000 houses, in a couple of years you're going to turn around and sell that for 450, 500. My house I just sold, I bought for 175 back in 2007. We sold it for 340.
I mean, I'm telling buyers, if you find a house you love, buy it. Don't wait for the interest rates to go down.
Yep.
Just buy it when the interest rates do go down,
Mm-hmm.
and they say they should in the next year, 2 years, right?
Yes.
Leigh-Anne, you confirm
Yeah,
that?
we spent some time last
that
week learning
you can,
that.
you know, there's some products that the lenders are going to offer to refinance and help
But
them.
the pricing is better. That's why I try to explain I do a lot of open houses, and the buyers are, we're waiting for the interest rates. We're waiting for the interest rate. We're waiting
don't
for the
do
interest rate.
that.
I'm like, okay, guys, but the pricing is probably $40,000 or $50,000 less than it was. You're getting instant equity on some of these deals just because the interest rate is higher than what you think they should be.
The challenge is there's not enough education. And that last week I spent
there's too much online TikToking. And
yes.
There's a lot of
Misinformation and not nitty gritty. So my wheelhouse is face to face. So if somebody wants to get pre-qualified, my thing this year is buyer consultations. I don't care if it's online through Teams or Zoom or in person. I want consultations with that buyer to go over numbers. I want you to see, let's go out and get your shiny 5% rate, but let me show you how much that 5% rate is going to cost you. That's not what you're hearing. I want to show them what that looks like, but I also want to show them what a lot of people aren't showing them, which is the cost to wait. We have calculators now that will show the average appreciation of that home. So Stacy, my coworker, posted from our conference last week, the house is permanent, the rate is not. Date the rate, marry the house. I mean, however you want to say it. It's so true. So we did an analysis for a buyer the other day in my office, and he hates the interest rate because the local builder did a forward commitment, could give him 4.99, and then his loan fell apart. Okay, well, that's cool. We can do your loan. No, it's not going to be 4.99. Yes, we can save your loan, but guess what? Let's plug in this address that you're going to buy. And in the next year to 2 years, we did the math and we did the calculator. It's going to cost him $62,000 more in 2 years to buy that house. So getting that knowledge out to the street and spending the extra time educating people on real estate investments, why it's important, why the rates are they're really kind of normal right now.
They are normal. They're just not ridiculously
I think it's
low.
an average for over 35 years. We're at
That's right.
that average.
Yeah.
My generation, okay, I'm the oldest one in the room here. My generation saw 18% interest.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when my children were little, that's what we were faced with, buying a business and keeping a business afloat at that interest rate. So younger generations, those with families now that are buying, they haven't seen that interest rate. So we look at 6 or 7%, we're going like, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Because you can do that.
But that's the misinformation.
But this group, that's, raising a family and has school-age children, this is a kind of a leap for them. But I think that they're kind of getting neutralized to it.
Are.
I really do. Because I think September is kind of slow. October is kind of slow. People are kind of stuck in the mud. But you know what? I don't know what happened in November, but I had one of the best Januaries I've had in 16 years of real estate in January. And that's from what went on in November and December.
I agree.
Carried on. And I still see it now. Open houses are busier. I think. Do you, Chris? I mean, open houses seem to be
crazy.
busier. They're getting
It's a
out
spring market,
and they're
definitely.
looking again. So
I
think we're going to have a great year here.
You think people aren't shopping, you're wrong and you're not in the right place.
Yeah.
There's plenty of money to be had in the real estate world in West Texas right now. I was in the Bahamas in the middle of January with Dawn, who's on y'all's team. And I was like, it's just the calm before the storm.
Yep.
I left for the
I think
Bahamas.
you were working on a loan for one of my clients when you were there.
I was.
You were working on vacation.
I was. I left. I went into your open house that day.
You did.
I left and I had 48 loan applications that day
That's
and that
right.
week. And today I have 139.
Yeah,
and
wow.
we're a month later.
Yeah.
I mean, they've tripled.
Yeah.
People they're getting off. They're getting comfortable. And the more we can, in character, and integrity and relationship, educate, hold their hands, take them the distance without completely taking their face off of their head.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's about caring for
Yeah.
them and nurturing and teaching them. We should want this younger generation to become homeowners.
You know what? Midland is somewhat resilient to what's going on in the rest of the world.
Yes.
I mean, we don't have those big hills and valleys in real estate here. And so I can't think of a better place to buy real estate
Yeah.
right now. This is a good place. You're probably not going to lose money. I can't promise that. But it's a pretty solid place to buy and sell.
Yeah.
But the rents have always been high here.
Yeah, the
So
rent is so
You
high.
get first time home buyers that are, and I have a buyer right now, a nice young man, and every time he calls me, his mother is sitting next to him when he calls me, which is fine. But she is complaining to him, and he's complaining to me that the interest rate is too high. The interest rate is too high. And what about the APY? Which is the APY is as if this young man is going to be in this house for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
paying $400,000 in interest. I was like, no, you're not, because statistically, you might be there 5 years. You might maybe 6 or 7. Forget about what your mom is saying. I hear her. I hear her in the background. I'm not being disrespectful, but don't worry about what your mom's saying. You need to focus on the interest rate, and we need to focus on getting you a house. Okay, that's it. Forget about this $400,000 you've got in 30 years. It's
You know what?
not going to be realistic for you.
That's stinking thinking.
It's but
is.
then if you think about it logistically, he's in an apartment paying $2,000 in rent.
Yeah.
100% of someone else's mortgage.
100% of that.
Yeah.
Forget this 5 and 6 and 7% interest
You're
rate.
paying
Forget that.
100%
You're paying
interest somewhere
100%
else.
of a landlord.
Yep.
And look, the whole complex is full of people paying that off. So you're making that landlord money. The American way is you get a little bit of equity. My first house, we were talking about it. You know, I paid $69,000 for my first house. It was a foreclosure. Norma sold it to me, my wife, and then we sold it, and we made, I think, $30,000 or $40,000. It was tax free. That was tax free $30,000. We took it. We put it in another house, and we took it. We stayed there for 2 more years. We fixed it up. It was real cute and darling, and da da da. We did it 2 more. We did another 2 years. We took that gain every 2 years, and then before you knew it, we had a nice little chunk of cash.
Yep.
That's what the young people are missing. They make a little bit of money here and a little bit of money there, but these chunks of cash, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, and then you can take that money and reinvest it or put it in another property or get a rental property.
Yeah.
That's how you build this portfolio up.
And do it according to your own means. Don't do it according to your best friend down the street that has more than you.
Yeah.
Don't keep up with the Jones.
Well,
Start building.
and there's a lot of Dave Ramsey people here.
There are a lot of Dave Ramsey.
If we listen to everything Dave Ramsey says to us, and there's no disrespect, I understand he's a very trusted advisor, it would shut down the economy.
Yeah.
We could not all run on a Dave Ramsey
Right.
situation. It would be too
mean,
expensive. It would shut down commerce.
Mortgages dig us out of the inflation scenarios, you know. And last week we sat and listened to all the economists. Barry Habib is my very favorite economist. He's animated. He's only been wrong 1 or 2 times. Like, he's really amazing.
Man, I wish that was me.
I
I've been wrong 1 or 2 times. Oh wow.
It's not very often, Teri.
He predicted that we're gonna have a cut in April, May. We'll have a cut in September. We'll have a cut again after the election. And he even said we
now,
may even see the 3s again by the end
wow.
of 2025.
Praise
So
Jesus, that'd be awesome.
my opinion is what I'm doing with my buyers is buy the house. It's
Yeah,
going to appreciate in
absolutely.
value. Let's get you a 2-1 buy down. You never realize a 6 or 7%
All
rate.
kinds of programs
There's so
out
many
there.
cool things that we can do. You've got to be with someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because no, I would not want to pay 7% on a rate either. I pay 3.125.
Yeah.
But if I know that there's a way to get to the 4s today without a whole bunch of money,
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. So let's do a buy down. Let's do a program that will help you. Let's not spend all your money buying a rate. There's a lot of lenders. I have had more people call me and say, I want to pay 3 points. I want to buy 3 points. Well, simple math goes, we're going to go from 7 to 4. I'm going to buy 3 points. That's not how it works.
No.
Yeah.
3 points is 3% of the loan amount. And right now, 3 points is not even going to get you from 7 to 6.
Oh, wow.
So keep your money in your pocket.
Yeah.
Let me show you
Put
the
it on
return.
Do a cost
principle.
analysis.
Put it on
Yes.
principle.
Yes, I remember you guys had
yes.
done a cost analysis when Alex
Yeah.
had bought his house, and it was like, what if we put another $5,000 or $10,000 down? It didn't mathematically work out.
No.
And Alex was able to keep his. I think it was $10,000. He was able to keep that extra $10,000 that he was so stressed out about buying his
Yeah.
first house anyway. And I was there at the closing. We held up the closing table so we could go over the structure of his loan right then and there, and we determined it was not worth the money, $10,000 out of pocket to get his payment down. I think it was $20.
Get with
Yeah.
the,
It was ridiculous.
You
I'm like,
have
Alex,
to get with
save the
people who know
$10,000.
this.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to be with a realtor. You have to be with a broker. You have to be with a lender that can show you. First thing I say to somebody who wants to buy their points down, or they want me to compete with lower.com or whoever it is online. Hey, in November when the rates are 5.5 and today we're at 7 and an 8, and they say you can refinance, do you think you're going to refinance? Hell yeah. They're always going to refund. They're always going to, and I'm going to get a notification that their credit was pulled, and I'm going to call them. And guess what? We just spent $12,000 buying this down a year ago. That is predatory, in my opinion. I am not an advisor any longer when I allow people to do that. You guys are advisors to people. We're advisors. Integrity, character. Here we go again.
Well, here's my thing. I'm not a lender. Don't want to be a lender. Probably wouldn't be a good lender, but I know a good lender, and I'm going to send you to that good lender.
Yeah, me either.
I'm
And
gonna
that's
send
how
you
I feel
there.
about the realtor. I don't want to be a
Yeah.
realtor.
I'm
I
gonna
couldn't do lending.
just
I
going to
couldn't do it.
direct you to that person, and if you want to know how a house, come to me. But yeah, we need, and that's important. I don't want to do your job.
Yeah.
I want you to do your job because you're so
Yeah.
fantastic at it,
Yeah.
and you make things work
Yeah.
good for my buyer.
Yeah. Well, it's an honor for me and for my team to work with you guys and with Pine and Becket. We've got Paint the Town Red coming. That is such a cool event. 25 to 30 houses open all in one day. And we
Back
have,
to that boutique brokerage.
Yeah.
They're on the ground. They're in the community.
Yep. There are agents, there are lenders all over those open houses with laptops open. And I
Yeah, it's a
love
fun
Paint the
event.
Town Red.
It's a
It is
fun
one of my
event.
favorite annual
Yeah.
events. And Norma called me. She's like, maybe we should get some more people. Nope. I love Paint the Town Red. I love it. It is our baby with you guys. And so that's coming in April. We don't have a date just yet, but that's coming. That's
Yeah.
very exciting, cutting edge. Then you have Chris, so what are y'all doing? As we wrap up, what looks different this year? We're going to have a big real estate year. It's predicted.
It's going to
We're
be good.
experiencing it.
Yeah,
If
gonna
you're
be
going to
good.
list or handle a buyer, why do they use you?
Well, we're just darn fantastic for one reason.
You
We
are.
love what we do. We work. We are 24/7 realtors. It's not a hobby. It's not a hobby. I know it's not for Chris, and it's not for me either. We're serious about real estate. We want to have fun selling real estate, but we're serious about it. It's important to whoever we're working with. That's my opinion on it. I think I'm doing something that's of value to someone. And I love what I do. I really just love what I do. I love what I do. And I love working with the brokers at Pine and Becket and the agents. I mean, I like working with all the agents. I really do. We have so many good relationships with other agents and other brokerages. We are a big family here. And so I think we're going to have a fantastic year. There's just something moving in the ground. I mean, I'm seeing it at open houses. I'm seeing it in just random calls that people are making when they see a sign. I had a call before I got here today, a guy calling off a sign. We had closed. I said, I'm actually driving over there right now to pick the sign up out of the yard.
Oh.
And, it's a new client right there.
Yeah.
I'll be sending him listings tonight.
And you don't get bothered by their questions.
No.
You want to
absolutely no.
answer all
but
their
I
questions.
think just the fact that we are in a dynamic town to sell real estate. I mean, Texas in general. But Midland's a great place, and I'm looking forward to taking care of sellers and buyers, but really trying to go the extra mile. But a lot of that's just because that's what I want to do. I'm motivated to do that.
Yeah.
Because I like what I do.
That's what they can count on. What about you?
I think her integrity level, Teri. I mean, Teri's got a following of people that want to use Teri because Teri's going to take care of it. They know she's going to get it done.
That's nice of you to say.
That's what I think. That's why I think she's got a very loyal following. So trying to think of non-squirrel things to say here. I
say all the squirrel things.
I
You're the
feel
yin and my
like-
yang. Go ahead.
I guess, yeah. I feel like for me, it's more. It's going to sound weird, but I think harder work. It feels like, from what I see, because I watch everybody's stuff, and some of it's really beautifully done and beautiful Instagram posts, and it's very polished. And I've told my group this too, and I've told people at the sales meeting. There's this. Realtors have a kind of a tarnish right now with the NAR lawsuits and the commission lawsuits, and there's a lot of things that it seems like it's sort of stacked against realtors. And the sad thing is that really good realtors really want the best for the clients. Okay. And I know there's good and bad people no matter where. And I'm not complaining about realtors, but it feels like we're not showing enough work on how hard it is for us to be working. Like the other night when I saw Teri on a Friday night leaving her listing. I had just gotten home and she was leaving this listing, turning it on. I knew exactly what she was doing. Her husband was in the car. She probably said, honey, we're going to go turn on this house because I need it to look the best that it possibly can. Not for her, but for her sellers. She wanted to do a good job. And that's what I want to do. I want to be harder working, which I don't know how I'm going to work harder because I work hard.
You never sleep.
But I never sleep anyway. But
Nobody works harder
it
than
feels
Chris.
like I got to work. If I'm giving a 10, I got to give it 12 now.
Yeah.
That just it just feels like there's so much competition. There's so many people out there that want my job or want to do what I'm doing, and I'm like,
Including the internet.
I've been fired.
Yeah.
I get fired. Yes, I'm a top broker, and I get fired, and it hurts. It stings, and you don't like it, and it's like I did my best. I tried my hardest, and I still couldn't do it. And it's just like, okay, what did you learn from it? So I'm really trying to introspectively think, how could I do better? How can I? And I feel like it's just, you got to just, like Teri said, you got to show up. If you show up half the time, you've won 50% of the time.
Yeah.
And then it's your motivation, it's your attitude, it's your personality. I cannot, if Joe calls and bite his head off because I'm like, hey, Joe, how can I help you? He's like, hey, I'm sorry I'm short. I'm in the car. I'm running to the car. Give me 5 minutes. I'll call you right back. Okay, great. I need to try to be a better agent with other agents and work harder. That's what I think for me is going to be my 24.
Good. So in the lender world last week when we were learning some new things, they said that the loan officer renewals in 2022 they were down 141%. In 23 they were down an even bigger percent, and then in 24 because last year was so hard, they're down 239%, I believe.
Wow.
So those will go up once we go through the refi boom because refis are so easy. But the competition is stronger. You take your kids to tournaments where really good teams are at, there's fewer teams, right?
Yeah.
So when you want to be better, when there are fewer people doing more of the competition's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and how do you get better and better and better? And so for me and my team at Highlands Residential here in Midland, we're going to return. I heard a lady last week, she said, I don't return phone calls, I make phone calls. I don't return calls. I make the calls. I love that. We're going to communicate. We're going to have relationships. We're not going to burn bridges. We're going to have client consultations. I'll have a client with 6 worksheets spread out. This is it. I'd much rather lose a client because I confuse them on their options than have a client that goes, I didn't know I
had these options.
I didn't know what. I want to communicate. I want to go the distance for them, and I want to be in relationships with people who have integrity to do the same thing.
Well, it's so nice when I send somebody to you. You send people to a lender, and then you just let them go because you know that lender's going to take care of. I know you're going to take care of them. You answer your phone at crazy hours of the night, like we do. You do work in your house coat. I've done lots of deals in my house coat.
Yeah.
Because we have technology. The great thing is, you can be on vacation and work, and the great thing is you're on vacation and you're working, you know, so we work all the time.
We have the glorious side. Y'all have to show up with keys. We get to sit on the beach and do the loan. I mean, any lender that doesn't answer their call, shame on them.
Yeah, they expect that.
Well, and that's a perception. You know, there's, you know, I get on Facebook, kind of keep up with what people are doing, and I see agents that they're either showing me their great outfit or they're, you know, in bed, you know, doing a contract or something. I don't know. I know it's very confusing because I'm like, is that what real estate is about today?
Well,
it's not.
That's not what it is.
It's not. But that's what the public has seen.
The consumer does not care what shoes you have on or what your jacket is. I really, back to I've got to show them the work. They've got to, you got to show them that you're at dinner with your family. But you know nobody's got a videography. Nobody's got a videographer saying, okay, Teri and her husband and her kids are at dinner, and then Teri steps out to take a phone call from a red client to make sure that the red client is taken care of at Friday at 8:30 or 9 o'clock. And we do that all the time. We step out, you know, we don't usually talk at the table. Like, because I'm funny about, I get people say, we can't get a hold of you, can't get a hold of you. I'm with other people, and I don't want to talk about your file because it's a small town. I did that one time, and I made the mistake of saying something about something with this client, and I was with this guy, and this guy said, is that Joe? Is he buying? I was mortified. I was like, oh my gosh. I felt so small, and I'm like, you know, I should not have taken that call. And I called Joe and I said, do you know so and so? Yeah, I know real well. And I got that whole conversation I had in front of this guy, and he knows exactly what you're doing. He goes, I know him really well. You're fine. You know, just I appreciate you calling.
How amazing that you did that, though.
But I never did it again. And I have gotten complaints that we cannot get a hold of you, or the office will call, so-and-so's looking for you. I'm like, give me a minute. I'll be back in the car. I mean, they'll send me a text. So-and-so's looking for you, urgent. I'm like, give me 90 seconds. I'll be back in the car with the door shut, and I will be able to call him. And then I call him like, I'm so sorry.
You're very quick to respond.
I try to be very, I have my customer base, my client base, they want to respond. They want to have a conversation like this on text usually, or they want to call me. Call me when you can, and it's like okay.
You and I are a lot alike.
As soon as I can, the minute I get free, I will call you, and that's my rule. I don't talk about your business in front of somebody else that I don't know that knows you. It's confidential.
Well, everybody knows everybody here.
It's a very small town.
You never know.
It's a very small town.
It is.
Well, I just love y'all.
Thank you for this. This was terrifying and exciting at the same time.
This is the longest time I've had him captured.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Norma's going to be so jealous of us because we had one-on-one with Chris.
It's awesome because I'm like, I'll go, hey, Chris. Hey, Chris.
Can I borrow you for coffee? Just 2 seconds. I'm like, yeah, sure, let's get coffee.
I know. Yeah.
In 25.
I love being around people. You want to be around people you admire.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's somebody I admire.
Well, I admire you guys. So thank you for everything you do in our market. Thank you for everything you do for me at Highlands. And I just look forward to a great 24 with y'all.
We are going to have a great 24. And
I agree.
Call us if you're out there and need a good realtor. I'll send you to Chris.
Yeah, I'll send you to Teri. Teri's fabulous. Yeah, I love Teri. Teri's a fabulous agent.
And I'll be the lender.
It's a one-stop shop.
Yeah, that's right. That's been fun. Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.